When I was 8 years old, Dad had taken us to Nashville. And when I told him when I was 8, that I wanted to be a singer, it was like, I bet you will.
I think I see more clearly than ever, how powerful what we say to our kids, that becomes their inner voice for the rest of their life.
The small things that you say to your kids are huge. When you tell somebody that you want to do something and then they believe you, you'll do it. So many of the decisions that we make is based on what has been spoken over us, good or bad. When people were like, hey, you can't do this. Like, you're from a small town. What makes you think that you're so special? But then listening to those voices in your life that said, you can do this.
Country singer Shay Mooney.
Shay Mooney.
Shay Mooney.
Shay Mooney.
Do not make the mistake of calling an idea crazy, because no dream is too crazy. Every big company and every big idea came from one person that was willing to be like, yep, I think you can do that.
This is Unexpected with Hannah Love. In this podcast, you will gain a new perspective of how God loves you enough to call you to things that you couldn't have imagined for yourself.
Welcome back. I have with me today my favorite co-host, if you will.
Wow.
Partner in life. Babe, thanks for coming back with me.
You are very welcome. We're here in this beautiful studio.
We are.
Very, very well done to Joe.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, Joe.
He's right here. He's actually, it's amazing because they have this special technology. Joe's actually standing right here. You can't see him. He's able to camouflage himself, so he's able to direct. So thank you so much, Joe. We appreciate you being here.
I know that my audience really missed your humor.
You did not. You did not miss it as much. But how are you, babe?
I'm great. Good to be here. We went on our coffee run this morning.
We did.
We almost had a special guest with Ames because he really wants to come on, which we will. I think we should bring the big boys on one day.
I think that would have been, honestly, that would have been an unexpected twist.
It would have.
To bring on Ames.
Who knows what
he'd have some good stuff
into.
To say, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a lot better than what we're going to talk about.
Tall tales.
Yeah.
Well, today I thought, in keeping with the theme unexpected, you and I could just share, and I know we've shared a lot about our stories individually and also together, but I thought it would be fun if we could talk about maybe a few pivotal moments in our lives where the unexpected happened. And they were, like I said, pivotal, life-changing, just something we wouldn't have known for ourselves. So yeah, I think that's what we should do, because that's where God seems to work the best. You know?
Is. And it's always, when the saying is hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
It is wild. I mean, you and I have talked about that just candidly, of kind of moments in our life that we just didn't see coming, that now when we look back, it's like, oh, that one moment changed everything. And it is kind of crazy. And I have so many stories like that, and I'll let you start out and tell your stories before, so I can gather my thoughts.
Okay.
But what was what is one unexpected story that kind of changed the trajectory of your path?
Of everything. Well, I think it's interesting because as I was thinking through this, I wanted to start with something in my younger years and then kind of go into teens and then early adulthood. And really, I think there was just something that I could never have put my finger on. And you probably had more verbiage for it because you grew up assemblies. And so you were more charismatic and more, you probably were more in the vein of I could hear the voice of God, or someone had a word for you. So there was probably a little more context around what I'm about to say for myself. I couldn't put my finger on it, but now in hindsight, I think it's 20/20. There is a knowing in me that God had something big for my life. And I don't think in my younger years I even would have said that God had something for me. Now I know obviously he did.
Yeah.
But I just felt like there was something different about my life. And I will never forget my mom sharing that my Sunday school teacher, Miss Mildred, always told her about my brother and I that there is something special about us. And I thought all those years, oh, well, she was just biased and she loved us and she was partial and she was just like, your kids are special, like someone, like an aunt that loves you. But the more I think about it in adulthood, I really believe that there was something that even she knew that she was verbalizing, that there was something that God had in store for us. And I actually remember before I competed for Miss Arkansas, I still had this feeling that there was something coming. I had no language for it. I just felt like there was something coming that was bigger than me. Mm-hmm. So after I won Miss Arkansas, and I've shared that story a few times, but I was more shocked than anyone, the most unexpected thing. But I still remember thinking in my mind, was that the thing? Like, that's it. That must be the thing, because it's the biggest thing that's ever happened in my life. And I actually remember feeling in my spirit, no, like there's more. Mm-hmm. Like having this feeling like this is almost like this is just the beginning of it. And again, that was before I had practiced, doing listening prayers and like really working on my relationship with God. So now I think that was God telling me, like my spirit prompting me to say, there's more.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. But I didn't have context for that. But I remember feeling it. And that's the craziest thing. And I think if you talk to people that maybe don't have a context for religion or God or a history of church, but they have these knowings or these feelings, I think that we could say that's the prompting of the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. Some people may call it your conscience or your whatever, but now looking back, I think that is a piece of us that's always been there because we are made in the image of God. And that's something that He has put in all of His children. Don't you think?
No, I agree. Listening to you, there was so many times like that in my life that I was spoken over. And I feel like one thing that I feel like is not necessarily a new revelation to me right in this moment, but looking at kind of the comparisons of my life and your life. And, I think one thing that I see is that we had a lot of people speak over us and speak life over us.
Right.
And I think that is something to not really brush past, where if I think about, because, you ask yourself these questions like, well, why was I called? And why did what makes me so special that like I felt like I could do these things,
right.
And kind of have this path in life. And I do think that God uses people to speak life into us, whether that be our parents. I mean, mine was a big part of that was mom and dad speaking life over us. And a lot of that was, when I was literally not born, my mom, I don't know if I've shared this story on here or not, but she already had 2 girls, and my mom, she was kind of afraid to ask God specifically for something, but she'd always had a dream that she wanted a boy. Mm-hmm. She really wanted a boy, and she said that she was in the kitchen one day, and she was like, "God, I just want a healthy baby, but if it's your will, I want a boy. I want a boy." And afterwards, she named me Shay. She loved that name, did not know what it meant. And after she had me, like months later, she was looking up the meaning. Back then, you couldn't Google search what the meaning of things were. But Shay in Hebrew means asked for.
Yeah.
And it was just like a little God wink of like, hey, like that's crazy. Like looking back on that now, it's pretty wild. But all that to be said, I think that there is such power in the tongue, and the Bible says that very clearly. The things that we say matter a lot, and that's why we're so big on speaking over our kids and saying, you can do hard things, and God has amazing things in store for you. And I think that obviously God knows the path of our life because He's God, and yes, we have free will. But I do think that so many of the decisions that we make is based on what has been spoken over us.
Right.
Good or bad.
Good or bad.
I think, a lot of times when people were like, hey, you can't do this. Like you're from a small town. What makes you think that you're so special? But then listening to those voices in your life that said, you can do this. Mm-hmm. And, not to like jump right into my story, but when I was 8 years old, I remember having that feeling that like, Dad had taken us to Nashville and was like, he was always very good, and Mom too. But he had this way about, especially, from a father and a son, he had this way about not thinking that my dreams were kind of crazy.
Yeah.
When I told him when I was 8, like that I wanted to be a singer, it was not like, okay, champ, like, I'm sure you will, it was like, I bet you will. And saying it in a way of like, I believe you. I believe that you can do that. And that's like,
we're getting crowd.
I know, I said I wasn't going to, but I think that and it makes me emotional because when I think about it, the small things that you say to your kids are huge. Because it's like when you tell somebody that you want to do something and then they believe you, you'll do it.
Then you believe it.
You'll do it.
Especially a parent now to kids. And I know we send each other like parenting stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But as parents now, I think I see more clearly than ever, like how powerful what we say to our kids, that becomes their inner voice for the rest of their life.
It is. And that is to me, the reason that, my dad was able to do that because his dad was a dreamer too. Mm-hmm. And I think, going back to the voice of God thing, I think that the voice of our parents and the voice of our pastor and these people that we trust, there's a lot of ways that you can hear God, but I think that is one of them. Absolutely. Because it's the voice of truth.
Yeah.
And
God uses people.
He uses people
to talk to us,
to speak life into us. And I think that's why that kind of makes me emotional, because I know the importance of speaking life into not just your kids. That's the most important thing. Yeah. But speaking life into your marriage and speaking life into your family and speaking life into strangers, being a calling, because there's a lot of people out there who have never been told like, hey, I believe that you can do that.
Yeah.
And there's so many people who do not know how to dream, not because they don't know what to dream for, but because they think, why would I dream about that? That can never be done, because they've been told that they can't do it their entire lives. Right. Whether they grew up in the foster system or whatever their scenario is, that they didn't have somebody, maybe that their parents, this has been generational of them not believing that they could dream or that they are allowed to dream. And I think that it just takes one person, like your Sunday school teacher, being like, hey, you're special and you're called. And you start to believe those things. Yeah. And I had that so much through my life. I mean, many times I can look back and see moments where Sunday school teachers or whoever it was continued to like lay that on of like, hey, you're going to do something special. There's something special in you. And I don't know that it was like, I know that God had a plan for my life and that was a part of it as well. But I got spoke into so many times that by the time I was 12, I was like, psh, I'm going to go. I am special. Yeah. And it was never like in a cocky way. It was just like, I do have a purpose.
Confident.
I was confident in my purpose, and I knew that I could do it because the people that I loved and trusted the most told me that I could.
That's so
And
powerful.
I think that's just a really important thing to like get out there to people, as far as, the way that you speak to your kids, the way that you speak to your friends. Yeah. When your friends come and say like, hey, I've got this idea for, this company or whatever it is, like, do not make the mistake of calling an idea crazy, because for one thing, either they're going to not listen to it and they're going to do it, and then they're going to look at you and be like, hey, you never believed in me, and you might not be friends for very long. But I think that it's so important to speak life into people that you love. Like, no dream is too crazy. Every big company and every big idea came from one person that was willing to be like, yep, I think you can do that. And then they went and they did it.
Can I add a little like biblical layers into here? Two things. One, I've been reading in Proverbs. You've inspired me. I know that you went back to Proverbs this summer, this spring. I started in Proverbs yesterday, and actually one of the first things that I've been underlining has been about the tongue, and it's you eat the fruit of your lips. And it just says over and over, the fruit of your lips, the fruit of your words. And that tells you so much right there, because you will produce something based on what you say, and your life will be affected by it. And two, what I want to say, and this is one of my favorite little, people say they have a revelation in the word, and the word will speak to you. But one of my favorite things that God showed me was in 1 Timothy, when Paul is writing to Timothy, he tells him, remember the words that were spoken over you and use them as a weapon against the enemy. Mm-hmm. And that was so profound to me at the time, because I'd never the whole concept of someone speaking over you or prophesying over you, having words for you in your life, that was new to me. And I was digging in to find anything in the Bible I could to reference that. And to see that Paul was reminding Timothy that he had words that were spoken over him, and to hold on to them, not just hold on to them, but to use them as a weapon against the enemy when he was, faced with doubt, when he was faced with criticism or fear, because those words had been spoken. And maybe those were prophetic words, or maybe they were just words of encouragement and life that people in his life had spoken over him.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think it gives like biblical context to what we say when we're like, speak life, or, words are powerful. There's literally examples in the Bible of how those words can be used as a weapon.
Yeah. And it's so powerful because you think about, you and I talk a lot about, especially when talking about our kids, but, this whole journey that, both of us have been on. But I think that as a man, kind of the crux of everything is and really anyone too, a woman as well. Your identity is everything. And obviously we find our identity in Christ and in our family. And I think that it's just so important to exactly what we're talking about right now, as far as the words of life and the way that you speak over people. I think that kind of is everything right there of your identity. Like the more people tell you these things, it's really tough when people are online saying, especially think about a young kid, when you're not secure in who you are, and you have thousands of people online of strangers that you do not know who are telling you like you're a loser, and you all these things that are, eventually you're going to believe them if you don't have, like, how are you supposed to combat that?
Right.
And it's with exactly what you're talking about. I mean, your words and the words of the people that are around you, that's why it's so important. You talk about this family construct of like, the family is the most powerful thing on earth. Because if you have that group of people who are telling you that you can and that they believe in you and don't worry about what's going on over here, not only just them telling you that, but then them seeing that. That's why, us being with our family, being back home, when we come back home, you feel it. There is a security that is brought that's beyond anything that you can ever experience in the world. And whether that's, I know everybody doesn't have, a huge family like we have, but there's a lot of people, if you don't have that, you can choose those people to become your family as well. And I think that is an amazing thing. That's the importance of like a church community and having, really good people around you that are speaking life into you. Because if you're going about the world by yourself, I mean, you're going to think about not having people who are pouring into your life. When you go somewhere and you're trying to do something on your own, and you just constantly have people, not even just like speaking words of not words of life over you, but also just not having that support. And having like just the world is just yuck. It is literally set up to make you think that you can fail.
The first years of our marriage. I picked up and moved. You had been in Nashville for however many years. I picked up and moved. I didn't have family or friends. I quit my job. Well, I worked remotely for a while, and then before the baby, I quit my job, and I didn't have a community, and you were gone. And I already, it was just a really, really hard, that isolation and that having no one around you to be like, it's going to be okay.
I mean, that's probably like that was the hardest part about the whole thing. It's like I didn't have a community either. And that was like the problem too, of just like,
no one
sure,
else
I had friends,
kids.
but like it was a completely different world than we live in now, and that's the only way that we made it through it, is because we did have community and family that we had. We clawed and, clawed our way out of that.
We did.
But
Well,
it was because
we had Christ as, as our reference point. We came back really to him.
And we had to have that family piece of it was like, it was everything.
And I'm only sharing that because, as much as we talk, and Erica and I, we talk about family so much, but I don't want to understate that we do understand that isolation and the struggle and what comes with not having that. Like,
Definitely.
I genuinely believe that God took us away, in a sense, from all that we knew and all that was familiar and all of our family, so that we had separation and we could figure out who we were as a couple, as a family. And honestly, God had to work a lot of stuff out in us.
Yeah.
And if we had been back home, we probably would have turned to that unit rather than face each other and deal with what we needed to deal with.
Yeah. I think it's an important piece of growing up. And I know for a man it is, separation from your mother and father is like, it's a terrifying thing, but like it has to happen.
It has to happen.
That's an absolutely terrifying thought.
And
when I think about the boys.
We talked about, I know, I can't go there.
Because I know that one day they will need to leave. It might be for a year. It doesn't have to be, this insane separation. But I think that I knew that I had to go off, and not to become successful on my own. I had to go off and to separate myself from my family to then become a man. And all those lessons that I learned of being broke and sleeping on my friends' couches, and like, I needed that to then learn how to provide for my family.
Right.
Even though I had a great example of how to do it, I had to go and I had to go do that on my own.
What's interesting is that you knew that you had to do that, and you like actively chose to do that. I went to college, and I kid you not, and I'm not a crier, I kid you not, Mom dropped me off and I bawled my eyes out. Like, Mom didn't know what to do. She was just, I think, shocked. I was shocked. But she took me, she dropped me off with all of my things, and and I was like, what now? I knew nobody.
Yeah.
I was in a new city, a new place. I came from the country. I was like, Ellie Mae Clampett comes to town. And it was the first time in my life that I was like, I want to go home. I never want to leave. It's safe. It was so uncomfortable for me. And it's not what I don't want to say it's not what I would have chosen. I knew that I wanted to go to college and do the thing that everyone else was doing. But when the day came, I had genuinely never thought beyond like getting there. Mm-hmm. And it was terrifying to me. But what you're saying to me is, and maybe because you're the man, I don't know, maybe just because we're wired differently, because we are, but you are saying, I knew that I wanted to go.
Yeah.
You jumped out of the nest, and I feel like I was kind of like shocked when I fell out.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't like, it was, I think my senior year of high school, there was like, that was when I quit sports because I changed. I went to Van Buren High School my senior year only. And because I had decided if I wasn't going to play sports that I didn't want to be at Union anymore, because all my friends played sports and it'd be tough to be there. And so I figured, all right, my drummer went to Van Buren, and so like, I'm going to go and do this music thing, full time.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of people have heard of it. It's a big band called Fuller's Field that we had.
I still have this poster.
Huge band, real big band. We had we would go, and we were playing gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like, I figured if I wasn't going to play sports, I'd go there. And all that to be said, going back to what we were discussing earlier of just kind of having this direction of what we were doing. Mm-hmm. Yes, I knew that I wanted to be a singer, but like by the time I got to a senior in high school, I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah,
and I was just kind of going, and it wasn't like, it was wild. When I look back on it, I'm like, my gosh, like how did I have the confidence to go do that? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that is because I had so much life spoken to me. By the time I got to high school, I was like, I'm going to be a singer, and this is who I am. My identity was like there, but I had no idea what that looked like. Yeah. When I think back on how little I knew back then, I knew nothing. All right, well, what are you going to do? What is the approach? I don't know. And even when I had a full ride,
the roadmap of your life has been wild.
It's wild. And I had a full ride to go to college.
Yeah.
And I'm, and by that point, I don't think Mom and Dad were surprised when I completely was like, yeah, I'm actually not going to do that though. They were kind of like, well, of course you're not, And I think it was a little less scary because they had been through this with Erica and Gabby, and that was the scary thing. Like your daughters, that's a little scarier for Dad at least.
Than your son going off.
And so by the time I got there, they were like, yeah, he's going to be fine. But I went up to Pittsburgh, and this was the way that this happened was so crazy. This is where my life, talking about these unexpected moments. Mm-hmm. This will be my example of this. When I had just turned 18. I don't even know if I was 18 yet. I'm going up and I'm looking at these colleges because I had a full ride to go to like a music school. I went up to this place called Valley Forge Christian College, which still I think on the website says that I went there. There's so many people who think I went to their college. I don't know how it happens, but it happens often. Side note, because this is just hilarious. I was golfing the other day at Hillwood, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, I just wanted to shake your hand. You're Shay Mooney, right? And I was like, yes, sir. He's this 80-year-old man. And he was like, my name's so-and-so. He's like, I'm on the board of Belmont. And he's like, and I know you went to Belmont, didn't you? And I said, no, sir, I didn't. He goes, oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I was like, you know what? If people believe you, I was like, you can keep saying that. That I went to college. I forgot I didn't tell you that the other day. But anyways, I go up, never went to college, for the record. I go to Valley Forge. My sister was with me, Gabby. And at this time, Gabby was not, she wasn't even really considering herself, I don't think, as necessarily a Christian or, kind of living a life that she would say that.
Aunt Gaga on in a later episode
to tell this side
story.
of it. But essentially what happened, long story short, we go up there and Blake, my drummer at the time, went with me. And I had all but decided, I'm not going to college, but they invited me up there. I'll go check it out. They're having this conference. And it was they just had worship and, this stuff. And there was different booths outside of different colleges that they had. That it was a youth conference that they were having there at that same time.
So with pamphlets.
With pamphlets and that kind of stuff. So Gabby, during worship, was like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Walked out of the building, met this guy named Billy Chester. And he was from Allison Park, Pennsylvania, which is Pittsburgh. And they had this ministry school. That was a 9-month program. He was really, really nice and was like, just take a pamphlet or whatever. So fast forward, we're back in Arkansas. Gabby just one day comes in there and she's bawling, crying. And she's like, I think I'm supposed to go to this college. And I was like, what? Because she at that point was that already in itself was a miracle.
Yeah.
Of what are you talking about? You're going to a ministry school. She just has this encounter with God and was like, I'm going to this ministry school. And it was so random that I was just like, that's crazy. And I don't even remember the timeline of when this all happened, but she told me that. And I think the next day or something, I was like, I think I'm going to do that too.
Me too.
There was no plan. It was I think I'll go move to Pittsburgh as well for a year and a half. And so we do that. Gabby and I go up with our friend Matt, and I don't even know how Matt was her drummer at the time in her band. Okay. Matt decides he's going to go to Pittsburgh. And so very, very random. And we go up there, mom and dad, drive us up there. And we ended up, Gabby got an apartment somewhere. And then right down the road from the church, there was these people, and I'm blanking on their names, but they basically had this room for rent. And I kid you not, I think it was, I want to say 510 square feet. It was the tiniest little room. It was about the size of this. You can't see these rooms. You got to see these rooms. But it's two of these things put together. That's how small it was. There was one bedroom, and Matt and I split. There was I think there was maybe 2 bedrooms, but I'm telling you, I couldn't hardly fit a twin bed in there. It was a twin bed, and there was a little bathroom and a little kitchen that was the size of a box. It was like a pool house.
It was like a dorm room.
It was amazing. Honestly,
had
a blast. And so, anyways, we go to this for 9 months and go through Allison Park, and that moment was just awesome. But I was going through. I knew I wasn't going to be a pastor. That wasn't the goal. But at the end of it, you got you were ordained essentially. You had to go on there, which I never did get ordained. You had to do paperwork, didn't do it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
In our dating story, this is the part he tells me.
Yes. But so we go through all this to be said, randomly, Gabby meets this guy who is a backup dancer for T-Pain. And this was didn't really hang out with him, met him a couple times.
Yep.
We get back to Arkansas after all this is over with. And I'm like, cool, we just did this ministry school. I didn't even really finish all the way. And I know I'm going to be a singer, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I was like, am I supposed to go to Nashville? What am I supposed to do? Well, I'm at the movies one day and I get this text from the guy who Gabby knew and just said hey, T-Pain wants to FaceTime. Can you FaceTime? And I'm at the movies and I go outside, find Wi-Fi, FaceTime T-Pain. He invites me to Memphis to go to the show. I go to the show in Memphis with Gabby. I want to sign you. Let's go. I'm going to bring you to Atlanta. if you'll do it. Had my dad's lawyer, not an entertainment lawyer. Like I signed this horrible record deal, moved to Atlanta, and it was a crazy year and a half of my life. Wild.
Yeah.
But that got me to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I'm sleeping on my buddy's couches. And then one random day he said, "Hey, do you want to go to this guy's house? They had like a keg of beer or something like that at the time." And I was like, I had no money. I was like, yeah, we have to go to that party, you know? So I went there, meet Dan Smyers. We're hanging, you know, I'm singing till 2 a.m. Write with Dan the next day. And like unintentionally, we write like 100 songs.
Yeah.
That we had all these songs and they were like, "Are you guys a band?" And we're like, "Well, I guess." And
sure,
that is literally how it started. And I think that was December 7th, 2012. Mm-hmm. And I think that by, I want to say it was 2014 or might have been even 2013 that came out. I can't remember. But we had our first single on the radio, like, you know, 6 months later.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was a wild, you know, it's been a wild journey till then. But I look at, you start to like go back in reverse. I say all this, like, I'm terrible at chronological stories because I get sidetracked so fast. But I say all this to say, like, when I look back on my life, there are so many moments that were just like one decision changed everything. And would I have met Dan?
Right.
I probably not, because I probably wouldn't have done this and I probably would have done that. And it really blows my mind. And I start to see the hand of God. It cannot be chance.
Yeah.
It can't.
I mean, I don't believe in chance or coincidence or happenstance, none of it.
And I think that, you know, and you think about, like, you know, what people call like the butterfly effect of like one thing changes and everything shifts.
Everything changes.
And I do think, you know, we have free will. I know that, like, you're not always going to make the right decision.
Yeah.
But it is crazy to me now looking back and seeing how all that affected, like, and then you look in the face of your kids and you're like, if Gabby would not have gotten
the pamphlet, I wouldn't have my sons right now. And I wouldn't have my wife. I mean, you don't know that, but
there's a good chance that I would not have.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have met Dan. I wouldn't have, everything kind of would fall apart if it wasn't for like one or two of these things. Like, I wouldn't even be in the same place.
Well,
and so, God could have pulled off a miracle, and we maybe we were supposed to be together, even if she didn't do that. But like, that was the point. That was the decision that was made.
Right.
And that was like how God has used all these things and orchestrated it. But also, like, turned a lot of these things into good things.
Right.
Because not all these things were good.
Right. Well, I mean,
my year and a half with T-Pain, I would not call a godly experience.
However,
you know? I mean, it was crazy.
When you consider that you went from ministry school to living with T-Pain.
Yeah. Talk about a contrast.
Talk about the unexpected.
Yes.
And like, and we've talked about this often, like how all of those things in their own ways have prepared you for where you are now. 100%. And even for me, like the first, what I would say, like, mile marker of like big change in my life was the moment that I won that pageant. I wouldn't have even been in that pageant. It was the last pageant I was ever going to do because I competed in a different system. And I was like, I'm never going to win in this system. The way it's set up is just not for me.
Yeah.
And so I switched over knowing I could never go back to the old. And I was like, this is it. Last thing I'm ever going to do. And I've got a piece about it. And boom. No one was more surprised than I was when I won. And when I won, my Twitter handle rolled over and the picture changed. And that's when all of a sudden you were like, hey, what's up, girl? You know?
Yeah, because I knew the previous winner.
You knew the previous winner.
And if it would not have,
if I hadn't won the title, then
I never would have known about you.
You would have never known about, even though, you know, we have our friend groups have overlapped over the years.
But it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it would have, but it is crazy to go back and look at those moments and just, it kind of hurts your brain a little bit of just like,
well,
whoa.
Don't you think,
do you ever
think that God's brain hurts and he's like, oh, like, he's got to take an eraser and like erase what he had planned for you because you were an idiot and you did the other thing.
100%.
But he's like redrawing it.
You know, I got to take you around this way. You could have just went right here.
I was in the GT program, Gifted and Talented, and one of the things that you get to do is they would like have some scribble lines on a piece of paper and they'd give it to you and see what everyone could make out of said scribble lines. And it was like one of my favorite activities, but I feel like God probably has this map for us.
Yeah, here's every decision that you could have made.
Yes.
And it's just like this, you know.
And he's probably like, oh, I'm going to have to repaint that, you know, something. But he is the master orchestrator. And I do love that this is another thing I've been reading, and it's like, in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight, right? Like that's Proverbs. And so it's like once we wake up and we're acknowledging God and we're like, okay, God, help me out here. And he's like, okay, we'll get you back on the right path. Yeah. And he does that for us.
Because things do, when you are aligned and you are seeking after like wisdom, which is why it's one of my favorite things to do is to pop open Proverbs. And because there's just so much in there that, I don't know, there's so many like lies, and common sense has just been lost in our world.
Yeah.
It's just lost.
I mean, I did an episode called Dummy's Guide to Life, basically, and it's just read Proverbs.
Yeah, read Proverbs.
Read Proverbs.
There's so many things in there that I'm like, this was written so long ago, and I can apply all of these things to stuff that I'm going through right now. And it's like, and when I'm looking at it, usually the way Proverbs is kind of set up is like, you got the fool and you got the wise man. And it's like, and I'm reading it and I'm like, well, I've been the fool a million times, you know, but if there's one way to not be a fool, it's like you read Proverbs and you read about like what wisdom is, and you just gain such a good perspective and so much truth in that. And I think the only way to combat like the craziness of our world is with truth.
Is to know.
And I've hated, I despise that.
I know where this is going.
I've always hated when you say like, I'm living my truth. And it's like, I hate that so much. And this probably gets me canceled. But I hate it because there's truth and then there's not truth. And I don't want to live in a world where it's shades of gray. I get that there's context to things, and I know that some things are nuanced, but at the end of the day, there is a truth and there is a lie. Yeah. It doesn't care about people's feelings. There's the truth, and then there's what's not the truth.
Right.
And I think that like whether I wanted to believe, there was a lot of times that like when I was, you know, kind of just doing whatever I wanted, it was like that didn't change. Like, yeah, that might have been my truth, but like, it sure wasn't true. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't, you know, I can't just say it. Just because I say it does not make it true.
Right.
Of like,
just because I feel it doesn't.
Just because I feel it doesn't make it the right thing to do, or you know, something that is leading to life.
Right.
At the end of the day, there's truth and then there's a lie.
Right.
You know, and again, there's a million nuanced things in there, and I'm sure people will try to, you know, pick that apart. But for every scenario, at the end of the day, when you unravel it all, there's truth, and then there's a lie.
Yes,
and there can't be your truth. Right. I can try to convince you that this is not a green curtain. We can't. But eventually, the truth is going to come out. They're like, it's a green curtain. Yeah. You know, and it's like I can have a really great, you know, branding, and I can have a great, you know, package of like, you know, hey, this is our brand new, this is our blue curtain, you know, whatever you want to go to convince people that it is a different color than it is. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a truth. There's only going to be one color.
Well, the only truth is the word of God. And that's why we put on the armor with our kids every day.
Yes. And combating all that. I'm spinning off into
we're rabbit trailing.
A whole rabbit trail. We'll probably cut that whole section out. But I think it's, back to my point, I think that it is amazing to me, talking about like, you know, unexpected and these things that kind of come out of nowhere. I can kind of trace it back all the way to that pamphlet, which is just kind of nuts when you think about it. And there's certain things that like I can go back again and you can keep doing it in your life where it's like, what if we didn't go to Nashville, or what if we didn't do these things? And I don't know, there's just so many things that are like that in my life that it almost makes it scary, where I'm like, you know, when you talk about being here now, like I love where I'm at right now. Like I could have screwed this all up, you know, several times, or something by chance would have just not allowed it to happen. Yeah. And it's really, really crazy. And you don't believe in chance, but it's really crazy to think about, you know, the decisions that we make, you know, they do matter, you know, and
God allows us
can
to make those.
Yes. And when you're a parent and, you know, and seeking wisdom and thinking about what do I tell my kids and how do I speak life into them? And I think that the biggest thing is just that you have to speak life into them and give their feelings, validation as far as like, man, whatever, especially Asher, Asher is for all of our kids, but
he's the oldest and the most inquisitive.
Seen it. Yeah. And we've seen him like, he's already asking questions and knows like his brain is just like a lot. I don't know where he gets it. So they didn't get it from me.
He's like an old soul.
He's an old soul. And he, I watch him every day. He wants to ask questions and all these things. And I think that one thing that we have done a really good job at, we've never told our kids one time that like they would not be able to do something.
Yeah.
As far as like, there's a lot of things we tell them that they can't do.
Yeah.
Like, hey, don't hit your brother. Don't do these things. It's not that we don't have any rules for them. That's not what we're saying. But as far as like dreams that they have of like, he'll say stuff like, one day I'm going to invent a something. Cause if I know for a fact that if he still feels this way,
then
when he turns 18, then he's going to do it. And I think that, will he go and invent a pipe system that can carry you to Arizona? Like if he wants to, he will. But by the time he's 18, like he's probably going to have other interests. Yeah. But I know that whatever it is that he lands on, he's going to have confidence in being like, you know what? I know that I can do this.
Right.
And because our voice is eventually going to become his inner voice,
right,
and aligned with obviously the Holy Spirit. But I think that a lot of those voices are also from us being like, you know what, dude, yes, you can.
Yeah. Well,
yes, you can.
It's like us being able to say, and this is again from my parenting reel, but it's like telling our kids, hey, you can do hard things. Mm-hmm. You can do hard things.
Because then it's not. I feel like I am going to do this specific thing. It's like whatever it is that you're going to do, I can do it.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's building their muscles of feeling capable.
Yeah. And going through hard things. I think that's the biggest thing of talking about.
Oh, that's the hardest part for me as a mom.
It's the hardest
letting them
part.
do hard things.
Let them do hard things. But also
stressful.
When you phrase it like that and say like, you can do hard things.
It's saying you're capable.
It's not just saying like, hey, you can do that. Because when you say that, then it's like they believe it. And then the first time that they like encounter a struggle, then they're like, well, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm a failure.
And it's like, well, that's why you have to do these things. And it's not going to be easy, but you can do it. You can do hard things because I watch how hard you work at it. And then it becomes like, oh yeah, I know I can do it because I can problem solve and I can do these things. It empowers them rather than makes them feel entitled to it.
Versus, well, it's the one that we send each other, and it's like instead of telling your kid they're smart, because the minute that something happens where they don't know the answer, they feel that that's a lie, you know, that they can't trust themselves and that they're not smart. They don't trust you because they're like, I didn't know the answer. Instead of saying you're smart, you're like, you work really hard.
Yeah.
I know you can get there.
Even just that, like one small,
just a little
adjustment. It just it takes your thinking to a whole new place, and it allows you to, when you do encounter something really difficult, just because you don't know the answer doesn't mean you're not equipped to do this.
Right.
Go and find the answer. Go and study. Go figure this out. And I mean, it's a tough thing to allow your kids to kind of go through those things.
Yeah.
But it also really helped me having had parents who allowed me to do those hard things, and also I watched them do hard stuff.
Well, and to our credit, I also think that when we pray over them, we are candid and we're like, hey, we mess up too. Hey, God, help us to do better. Help me be a better mom tomorrow. Yeah. Help me to have more patience with my kids. I mess up too. We're not lumping our prayers into one, like, God, help our kids, make good choices. It's like, help us make good choices.
Yeah.
Help us to do the right thing even when it's hard. And we apologize when we mess up to our kids because they know that we're just human too.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
We've done a good job with our unexpected.
Hey, it was unexpected. I don't think we even knew where it was going.
We didn't. I do want to add that at the end of my knowing when I was young that something big was going to happen. And then I won Miss Arkansas, and that was the catalyst to me meeting you, right? Mm-hmm. Then I thought to myself, this must be the thing. This must be the big thing that God had. And I still had this feeling that was just like, there's more. There's more. And even when we've had like our babies, even when our marriage has been like, there's been so much restoration and redemption, and like we're just in such a beautiful space, I still like in my spirit feel there's more.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting. And now that I'm older and I can recognize that for Holy Spirit's still small voice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just love the unexpected of that because there's expectancy in it of your story's not over. The big things were big, but there's more to come. And so I think there's also some excitement in looking forward to the unexpecteds. And
I agree with that. I love the way that you just phrase
that
and the way that it, you think about. It's like, well, if it's unexpected, then how are you supposed to have expectancy? And I think that is like just what you just said of having expectancy for God to do something big.
It's like leaving room.
It's still going to be he's not going to do it in a way that you see coming, that's kind of the beauty of it, where it's like, but I do think like what you just said is really important in having that expectancy that God is going to do something because he's done it. You've seen him do so much. And it's like, I do think that we should have that mentality, in our spirit of like, I know that God's going to do it because I've seen him do it and he's going to do it again.
It's that song, I've seen you move. You've moved the mountains.
Yeah. He'll do it again.
And I believe I'll see you do it again. Yeah. And it's just that anthem really over and over.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel like the Israelites were so stupid because
you're reading that.
I do so many unexpected things.
You read that and you're like, you guys are insane.
Moses disappears for 40 days and they're like, we'll worship a golden calf. And you're like, what idiots.
Yep. But how many times do we do that?
But we do the same thing.
We get on our phones.
We do the same thing.
It's the same. That's a whole other episode.
We'll
call it the golden calf.
But you know what? I just want to end with this, babe. God gave me the word surrender for the year. And I know that we're going to need it in the season ahead. And as much as difficult as it can be to not know what's in the future, in the unexpecteds, at least we have what we can hold on to is God's faithfulness in our past and all the other unexpected moments and how he used them for his good when we are asking for his will over our lives and the lives of our kids and our family. He's been so faithful. Yeah. So it's scary not to know the unexpected, but also we can look at what he's done. We can know he'll do it again. And we can have a heart posture of surrender. I think that's
absolutely, because that's knowing just how you talked about earlier, how we talk with Asher and say like, you can do hard things, and to all of our kids, you can do hard things. I think that is really the lesson that God has taught us through all of this.
Yeah.
I think this was really fun today.
Yeah.
Great job. Because coming in here, most like every time we come in here, we have no idea what we're going to talk about. And I hope that what we did talk about in these unexpected moments that we've had through our lives, I know that it'll encourage people. It's encouraging to me to look back and be like, man, even when I don't know what's going on, like to be on the other side of this now and to see that everything kind of changed through these little moments that were so clearly orchestrated by God is unbelievable. And I have no idea what God has for the future of, our family and all these things. But I know that, every time we get to spend time with our family here, I know that there is a big calling on my life of being a bigger part of the community, in our area in Arkansas. Like, it's really amazing to me to watch kind of how God's, thrown these little things, these unexpected things in that we never knew would ever happen. And it's really exciting to think about, just being a part of that and being able to do exactly what we're kind of talking about here of, inspiring people to, and teaching them kind of how to dream and, it has nothing to do with like fame or money or like businesses or really any of that. It's just encouraging people to, whatever God's laid on your heart, whatever you have been told that you can't do, being that voice for people and being that person who, believes in them and kind of cultivating that kind of thing in the community because it's infectious.
Yeah,
when you start to speak life, people, they start to speak life on themselves. They start to speak life into others. And that becomes the seed of change in a community. And we've watched that happen, in Nashville. That has happened, a lot in Arkansas. I think that there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to be able to be a part of just from being from this community. And I feel a call to be a part of that in whatever way that we're a part of it. But it's a really exciting thing. And I don't know, it's awesome. And it's amazing to meet people that, I don't know, I have so many, we were talking to Joe earlier, and all of the people that we know and like watching how our lives have connected now is crazy. And I just think that this is just the beginning of like what God has for our life and our story. It's a little mind blowing.
It's
sometimes.
like if you made a movie of our life, you would look back and be like, whoa, that was a long movie and that was a lot to take in, and we're just getting started.
Yeah,
you know what
crazy.
I mean? Like we're going to have a sequel probably.
Yeah.
there's going to be more.
It's going to be the Lord of the Rings. More. It's going to be a box set.
That's right.
Yeah. It's great. Well, I'm really proud of you, babe. And
thank you.
I love
I
love your setup.
Love
your setup.
Thank Joe.
Absolutely. I'll come by anytime. Yeah. Come by anytime. Big fan of the host.
I fully agree. And I think that there's something really special about God's invitation to get to encourage people. Like you said, the power of life and death is in the tongue. And, you know, Asher actually looked me dead in the face this week. He was in trouble. And I said something to him and he said, I'm not special. Because I said, you were special. And he said, I'm not special. And I launched immediately into my God put something in you that is not in anyone else. And he formed you, he knit you together in my womb before the foundations of the world. And there's something in you that the world needs. There's something that you are going to do, that you have, that you're called to, that no one else in this world is. And I just launched into that. And that's God's heart for all his children. You know, as I say that to our son, that's God's heart for everyone. And my hope is that anyone listening to this podcast is just encouraged by that. Yeah. You know,
because there are so many pieces and not everyone's going to be called to be a singer.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be called to be a podcast host or a video editor or a podcaster. I mean, there's a million, I'm saying all the things that we do.
Yeah.
But there is a million things that God has in people because he says we're made in his image. And I think that God has a little piece of himself in all of us that only you have at that particular moment in that particular time to be able to give the world and to be that light. And like you said, to be that seed of hope and joy in your community, in your family. And I think that that is a really exciting thing to be the one that gets to cultivate that and water that and bring that out. Yeah. And I think that everyone, no matter what it is, where if you said like, oh, I'm a plumber, like this, a lot of the people who spoke into my life were literally plumbers or working with my dad doing construction. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing. It just means God has something.
You will step foot in houses that no one else will step into, right? Like there's just, you can go on. We have ended this podcast like 4 different ways.
But I'm excited about what God has got for our future. And I know that we're going to look back on this in 10 years and be like, man, we were babies in our, in our faith in the way that, because I think if there's one thing that I've learned by reading Proverbs and all these things, and we'll end with this, is the older that I get and, you know, the more things that I've learned, I think that the start, because I do feel like I have started at 33 to finally feel like, all right, I know a little bit more of what I'm doing. And the wisdom has started to finally sink in. But if there's one thing, I think the beginning of wisdom is knowing that you know absolutely
the fear of the Lord.
Nothing. And the fear of the Lord is number one. Fear of the Lord. But when you start as a parent, when you start to, even in anything, not just a parent, but if there's one thing that I know, it's that I don't know anything. Yeah. I will never be done learning. And I think having that posture too, it changes the way that you approach situations. Sure, I'm going to be confident in certain things because I know them and I've been through them. But I think that when you never stop learning and you never stop listening to people, no matter who they are in your life, if you listen with that voice of, and with the ears of the Holy Spirit and saying like, hey, being discerning of like what is truth and what is a lie. And that comes from back to the Proverbs thing. Yep. When you know what the truth is, you can hear it. But listening for those things in your life and always trying to learn something, I think that is just a really important thing for me to always remind myself of, is that I could be 70 years old and still have so much to learn. Like every day there's something that I need to learn. And I think
we're supposed to be being transformed and made new.
Always.
Our mind, everything.
We're not going to know. We're not going to, until we get to heaven, there's not going to be, we're not going to know everything.
There'll be work to be done.
Yeah. And it's exciting though. I'm glad I'm learning it with you.
Me too.
Because I think you're real pretty.
Here. He'll be back. I'll have you back.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Love you guys. I hope you'll be back next week.
Thank you so much for listening today. If this episode has encouraged you, please feel free to share the show with your family and friends. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world today, and my hope is that this show is a candle in the dark.